You're listening to the Franchise Freedom Podcast with Giuseppe Grammatico.
Welcome to the Franchise Freedom Podcast. I'm your host, Giuseppe Grammatico, your franchise guy, the show where we help corporate executives experience time and financial freedom. Thanks for joining us today. As we wrap up the year, we're recording our final 4 episodes, and I thought it would be appropriate to title this one my top 5 takeaways in 2023. And usually when I do these shows, we've for the first 2020, 21, and 22, we've had quite a few guests. We've only had a few guests this year, so this one's a little bit different than our typical takeaway in that, the goal of this year in 23 was to answer and address questions you had. And my one realization this year and takeaway is that there's a lot of uncertainty and questions when it comes to owning a business. So, and that's the role of this show, is to really answer those questions. And I've been getting all your feedback and questions and emails and comments on all the social platforms. I've had just on people I'm working with directly to explore a franchise as well as via email. So my takeaway is that there seems to be just a lot of confusion with owning a business. What does it look like? Who's the right fit and that kind of thing? And I am going to continue with those efforts to produce as many shows as possible and start consolidating possibly into a blog where you had kind of the complete guide to franchising. It's something that we may be working on next year, where you have kind of a reference that you can take a look at. The other takeaway, and this is from the show, this is from being a guest. I've been a guest on over 100 other shows, is that, the principles do not change with any business. With any business, this is a vehicle that people are looking to get into, invest in order to produce a certain outcome. And typically that vehicle, whether it be a franchise or real estate or whatever vehicle you're in, you're looking for it to be sustainable, and you're looking for it to generate a certain result. And in many cases, as per my why, and kind of why I got into franchising, was time and financial freedom. Being able not to miss the personal and family events, and also to make, money, build a legacy, being able to sell, as I did with my past business, for a certain multiple, maybe create a legacy to pass down to future generations, to my kids and maybe my grandkids one day. So the principles don't change. There's no, every year there doesn't have to be something new, and what's the new and what's the greatest thing and this and that. So there are new franchises that launch, great new ideas, different ways of doing business, but in many cases may be completely irrelevant to you if you're looking for a specific type of business. If you have a certain skill set, a lot of that, becomes the shiny object. And I want you to really get focused on, why you're getting into business, and where I help people is getting clear on what that ideal business looks like. The other thing is, and this I bring from my investment days when I work for some of the larger financial institutions, is that you can't time the markets. You can't time the economy, right? The economy and the stock market are two different things. We can't predict where interest rates will be in a year. Obviously, interest rates are at all-time highs, but at what point do we say, okay, well, at a certain interest rate is when once it drops down to 6%, I'm going to jump into a business. Is that really important at this point in the game? Whether it costs you a little bit more to finance your dream, but are we waiting and now saving, a few $100 maybe a month on a loan to hold off on a dream for 2 or 3 years? What does that cost to stay at a job that you truly hate? I always say escape that corporate monster. So timing, it's really about timing for you. When is the time right for you? Getting rid of all the external factors like the stock market. Who cares where the stock market is? Even with the economy, with the interest rates and things like that. Sometimes, some of the best businesses come out of recessions, right? Because you've really figured out ways to scale back and hone in on a couple services and really focus on those areas Timing, key takeaway is now. It's never changed. The timing is now. It's get into that business, get started sooner than later. There's different avenues, and that's gonna depend on your financial situation, whether you jump into it full time or part time. These are separate conversations depending where you are. You may want to jump in full time, but not have the funds. 3 to 6 months living expense. But if you do or not, these businesses can be run part time, and any franchise or business is going to require capital. So you need to have some money to invest in a business. But with that being said, the timing is now. Why wait another year? Why wait another 6 months? It all goes back to the opportunity cost. If that true reason for owning that vehicle, that franchise, is to create the time and financial freedom, what are we waiting for, right? I always say the clock is always ticking, and why not take advantage of the time we're in now? And if the rates are a little bit higher, guess what? Rates also go down, and you can always refinance variable rates, take advantage of those lower rates. You can pay off loans sooner. I keep hearing this day in, day out. There are other options, and I would just say, if your why is strong enough, the time is now. And the biggest one of the biggest things that comes up in conversation is fear, and this idea of, well, what if I fail? What if I lose money? And absolutely, just to reiterate to everyone listening in, a franchise is a business. A business assumes risk. You can lose your investment, but you can also, on the flip side, make and create a financial legacy. Maybe retire sooner, help future generations. So the what ifs actually go both ways. But I always say, no risk, no reward. My famous quote of freedom favors the bold. Play off of fortune favors the bold, but I call it freedom favors the bold, for those that are bold enough to take a chance and own a business or get out of their comfort zone to do something new. But with fear, I find that in many cases, it's all in your head. Obviously, there's going to be some factors like risk, which is always going to be a factor in any business. But usually fear, what I've kind of is manifested in many different ways, but usually it's a lack of information. And that lack of information, and it's funny with the internet, with all the information we have, but lack of info, it's lack of the right info and the proper process. So the process of, okay, let me explore 50 different franchises. I'm overwhelmed to the point where I don't make any decision. Well, why don't we reverse it? And as I work with every single one of my candidates and figure out if a business is even the right fit. Why the hell are we looking at 50 different franchises if a business isn't the right fit? If we have zero capital, zero investors, different ways of funding it, okay, we'll talk about, is business ownership the right fit? Yes. But maybe the timing isn't right, and I need to create a plan, whether that be to put $1,000 away, $500, whatever that amount is per month, in order to be able to cover maybe a 20% down payment for an SBA loan on whatever that project cost is. So, fear is in many cases this lack of information, and I think with that information, it's also the order of importance of how you're going about doing due diligence and making sure that a business is even the right fit. And if you want something like a franchise where that playbook, is kind of built for you, we've received quite a few calls, and we work with quite a few people that are veterans, served in the military, and they talk about essentially following this system. Everything was really laid out for them. Not saying it was easy in any way, but it was all laid out. That's exactly what a franchise is and why veterans have excelled. I just read a stat that 1 out of 7 franchise owners are veterans, served in the military. And it doesn't really shock me. I see that number increasing just because the playbook was handed to them in the military. And now with the franchise, they're continuing. Obviously, it's going to be a different playbook, but there's going to be systems in place. Without systems, you don't have a business, right? You're essentially running that business and buying a job. So you want that system, that franchise to really help you so that you're maybe not in the day-to-day every single day. You're working on the business. You're creating time freedom, allowing you to coach your kids' sports and go to dance recitals and take vacations and things like that. So, fear is really, let's address it. Let's not run away from it. Let's face it and figure out, okay, I have this fear. What's holding me back? Maybe it's a spouse, and has that spouse been educated? Do they know, what is the investment in the franchise? Sometimes I hear people are gung ho, they're excited. I'll speak with the spouse on a call to find out what the investment is, which was never discussed. So, keeping the lines of communication open, realizing that, you're not selling the idea of a business, but talking about these are all the things. There's going to be an investment of X. With that investment of X, it can generate X, Y, and Z, from the time, not just time and financial freedom, but these are some returns, and potentially we can sell for a certain multiple. So I think, getting educated. This show is built not to address fear, but to educate where I can from personal experience. Guys, I've been in business ownership for over 20 years, both non-franchise, my family's restaurant, and multiple franchises, master franchising, as well as I was a corporate executive. I've been laid off. I've been there and I've done that. I can say that, so I know exactly what it means to own a franchise, to take a risk, life savings to open up a business, to be laid off, not to been able to pay myself for the first couple months. I'm going to help you. This is it. This is what I do. And when people contact me, you get me and only me. There's no staff or anywhere else. We try to educate and put as much out there to educate the community as best we can. But ultimately, everyone's situation is specific. So we want to speak with you. So I extend the invitation, as I always do. Reach out to me, send me a message. Best way to get a hold of me. That way we have all your correct information is go to the website, GG, my initials, the franchise guide, GUIDE. So GG, thefranchiseguide.com. Just contact me. You can book a call. You can send me a message. You can download my book. If you're not ready, you can download a workshop, whatever, is helpful. We have 25 of your top FAQs, frequently asked questions, on the website. We're actually relaunching the website, and we'll talk about that in a future episode, just to give you access to more information, readily available, as concise and straight and to the point. So I encourage you, offer everyone a 20-minute call. Let's chat. Our services are always free to you. We're compensated by the franchise company, so there's no pressure whatsoever. The investment is 20 minutes of your time, and I'll help you figure out, not what the best franchise is, but let's figure out together if a franchise is the right fit. Let's start there. That's the beginning stages of figuring out if business ownership and franchising is the right fit. And a big part of that is going to be education. What is a franchise? Are there risks? What are the investments? We'll cover all that together. So I encourage you to reach out. Have a great holiday, great year end, and have a couple more shows we're recording, and looking forward to talking in the new year. Take care. And as always, thank you again for joining us and your questions and your support. If you can find one person that can benefit from our show, from our content and episodes, I greatly appreciate the share, and I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care. Bye.
Thanks for tuning in. Whenever you're ready, here are 3 ways Giuseppe can help. 1. If you've ever considered owning a business of any kind, you owe it to yourself to get a copy of Giuseppe's book, Franchise Freedom. Download your free copy at ggthefranchiseguide.com/book. 2. Want to understand how successful executives make the transition from corporate to owning their own franchise? Join Giuseppe's next online presentation, Franchise Freedom: How to Escape the Corporate World and Have Financial and Time Freedom by Owning a Franchise, by going to ggthefranchiseguide.com/video. 3. Want to work with Giuseppe one-on-one to identify the right franchise opportunity for you, to navigate the process, and get plugged into experienced franchising advisors? Send him an email to gg@ggthefranchiseguide.com with one-on-one in the subject, and he'll send you all the details.